Shri Ramachandra Bhagavan ki, Shri Ram Navami ki. The Western academic attempt to study Hinduism is called Indology. Indology started in the late 18th century and really got moving in the early part of the 19th century. And you have these Orientalists who had an appreciation for what at that time was known as the Orient, included China and Japan and even the Far East, and also India was included. And although there was a lot of appreciation of Hinduism, especially the Germans really appreciated Hinduism, but there was a lot of interest both in England and in Germany in studying Hinduism academically. But there was an ulterior motive. All of the early Indologists and the sponsors of the early Indologists, they were Christian missionaries. And their goal was to essentially study their enemy and then convert India to Christianity. That was the goal. At one time, Oxford University gave a yearly reward for the best refutation of Hindu dogma. Let me just say that again. At one point, Oxford University gave a yearly reward for the best refutation of Hindu dogma. And even the term Jagannath entered the English language as wait. Even the word Jagannath entered the English language as juggernaut. And so the word juggernaut, which mostly juggernaut is, just a word to the wise. If you have children, do not leave. You've come all the way down here. It's Ram Navami. Stay with your children. However, if you have children and you think you can just sit there and ignore your children and listen to class, you are mistaken. I will shame you. And so, be a diligent parent, mind your children, don't be a lazy fellow, have some respect for the temple, and just try your best to keep your children quiet. And provided you're working hard to keep your children quiet, whatever amount of noise they make, we will tolerate. Because you've come all the way down here. It's an auspicious day. All right. So, Jagannath entered the English language as juggernaut. And mainly we know Juggernaut as a supervillain in the Avengers comic book series or the X-Men comic book series. I'm not sure which one it is. There was some crossover. But the word Juggernaut refers to an awesome, unstoppable, evil force that is just like a irrepressible, malefic force. And that's because the Christian missionaries saw the festival of Rath Yatra in Puri. And they were so disturbed at just the incredible religious pageantry of the huge 40-foot chariots and the million devotees who come yearly to attend the festival and the huge icons of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. And they were just so disturbed. And they sent back stories that the Hindus were so low class they were cooking and eating their children on the side of the road while the chariot went by. You can read Christian accounts of the Rath Yatra celebration, which are just, I mean, give me a break. The worst sins of the Udiya, the audition devotees, is maybe they take a little bit of fish, but they're not eating they're not practicing cannibalism. Give me a break. But that gives you an idea of how fanciful the stories got. Anyway, one of the attempts of Indology was to try to map Hinduism against a Western model of Christianity. Christianity, whether you like it or hate it, it's incredibly uniform. There's a text called the Nicene Creed, which was written in the early part of the 4th century. And that came out of the Council of Nicaea in 324 AD in modern-day Istanbul. They came up with the Nicene Creed. If you look at the Nicene Creed, 99.9% of Christians in the world believe in the Nicene Creed. You know, whatever it is, 1,700 years later. It's incredible how uniform, how monolithic, and how standard Christianity is. Hinduism's not like that. Hinduism has hundreds of strains, thousands of texts, and it's impossible to describe it in a uniform way because some of these sects are diametrically opposed to one another and believe totally opposite things on core points of theology. And so the Indologist attempt and their idea, their premise, their working premise that Hinduism followed the same basic structure as Christianity was just impossibly flawed. Unretrievably flawed. And it resulted in, at this point, centuries of just lousy scholarship. Just awful scholarship. Anyway, if you do want to make some kind of an academic study of Hinduism, you can break Hinduism down into 3 major strains. What are those 3 major strains? I'm not asking. I get a call on you. I saw your hand. I would control yourself. You saw me not look at you. I am asking. I'm not asking you. What are the 3 major strains? Give me one of them. What's one major strain of Hinduism? You with the beautiful mustache. One major strain of Hindu Dharma.
Belief.
One major sect. Sect. One major specific school of Hinduism. One major branch of Hinduism. You. Yeah. Vishal. Shaiva. Shaiva Dharma. Shaivism is an Anglicization. Shaiva Dharma. A follower of Shiva is called a Shaiva. That's one branch. And he's a Bengali. But Shaiva Dharma is only popular in South. You think I didn't hear him? I don't understand. I feel like I'm talking to some super ignorant children. Shaiva Dharma, the worship of Shiva. That's number 1. Number 2. Yes, you with the child in your lap. Sanatan Dharma. Yeah, that's true. That's like the Arya Samaj's preferred term, but that's a generic term for all of Hinduism. Another major mistake. I'm talking about an actual serious study of Hinduism. 3 major strains. Now there's a lot of minor strains. We're not including those. We're trying to get to 3 major strains. Kishore. Vaishnav. Vaishnav Dharma. Shaiva Dharma. It's 2. One more? Huh? Shakti. Shaktavad. Right? Worshippers of Shakti are called Shaktas. So Shaktavad, Shaiva Dharma, Vaishnav Dharma. These are your 3 major strains of Hinduism. Major strains. By far the most popular is Vaishnav Dharma. 78% of the world's Hindus are Vaishnavas. And there are many subsects within the major grouping of Vaishnavism. You can separate it into North and South India. Within South India, you've got the Madhvas, and you've got the Madhvas, and you've got the Ramanujis. The Ramanujis break down into Tenkalai and Vadankalai. Then in North India, you have the Ramanandis. You have the Gaudiya school that we're a part of, and any number of other sects. But these are the 3 main ones. You want to make a serious study of Hindu? These are the 3 main ones. Now the Vaishnavas all have something in common. Vaishnavas worship major deities: Ram, Krishna, Vishnu, Narayan, Kurma, Matsya, Varaha, Narasimha, some minor deities: Varaha, Yagna. But they all have one thing in common. The Vaishnavas have a belief in one Supreme Lord that exists forever in a Vaikunt, that you can have a loving relationship of bhakti with. You can go back to heaven and you can engage with and serve and love Vishnu, Narayan, Krishna, Ram, whoever it is, whatever avatar, whatever manifestation is, you can love and serve them forever, and that relationship is bhakti, and it's para bhakti, it's an eternal, nitya bhakti. And so that is the core distinguishing element that is different amongst the Vaishnavas compared to all other schools. Both the Shaktas and the Shaivas believe there is no Vaikunt. Even Kshamaraj, the 13th century Shaiva Pandit, postulated a Shiva Lok that was eternal, where you could worship Shiva in bhakti forever, and he was rejected by his own tradition for preaching a covered Vaishnav Dharma. If you read the Shaiva texts, if you read the Shakta texts, they give way to an Advaitavad, where everything becomes one and you become synonymous with the deity, and in the ultimate stage you merge into the white light. That's why you can chant mantras like Shivoham, I am Shiva. Because ultimately their theology is Advaita Vedanta. And when you look at the when you look at the Shaiva and the Shakta texts, their theology is Advaita Vedanta, which means they believe that that deity manifestation of Shiva, of Shakti in any of her forms, is ultimately a Saguna Brahman manifestation, and it gives way in the highest stage of realization to a Nirguna Brahman, and that deity disappears and you merge into and become one with that deity. Therefore there is no bhakti, no love between you and the deity, because the deity disintegrates, as do you, and everything becomes homogenized as one Brahman. That distinguishes the Shaivas and the Shaktas from the Vaishnavas. We can go into all the reasons why Shaivavad and Shaktavad don't work as a philosophy, because how do you go, if the ultimate truth is Nirguna Brahman, then how did we get to this world of variety? We live in a world where there's variety, there's individuals. If the ultimate source of all reality did not have any individuality, did not have any variety, then how did you get something from nothing? How did you get two from one? There's no logical explanation. Sometimes Shankar's followers will say, there is no two, there's only one. Two is an illusion. But then the question remains, how did you get the illusion that there was two? Because even that illusion that there was two is a variety within the one. You have the one with no illusion and the one with illusion, and so you still have no way to move from point A to point B, and the existence of the world disproves both Shaivavad and Shaktavad. The existence of a world, even a world of appearance, of duality, of individuality, of uniqueness, disproves Advaita Vedanta. So the Vaishnavas got it right. They believe in an actual God. In that sense, they're a little bit like Christians. They believe in a supreme Lord, a source of everything. And then there's, now when you look at all the different avatars, when you look at like Ram or Narasimha, or Krishna, Vishnu, Narayan, when you look at these different forms, then they're all essentially the same from a philosophical point of view. They all represent the origin of all existence. The supreme being, a being with whom you can have an eternal relationship of love and devotion. And that is the Sana Dharma, the Sanatan Dharma, the eternal Dharma. Sana means old. Sanatan means eternal. That's what makes Vaishnavas Vaishnavas. But then we do see there's some difference. Now the easiest conception of divinity to understand within Vaishnava Dharma, the easiest conception of divinity is who? Nope. Krishna is not the easiest to understand. That's a fail. You failed. Just go ahead and give yourself a big F. You failed. See, I called on you, but I asked you a little bit of a tricky question. Didn't call on you for the easy question, called you for the tricky question, and you blew it. And that's what you get for raising your hand, or not raising your hand, just jumping in. You got shamed. Who's the easiest conception of divinity to understand? Yes.
Probably wrong, but is it Vishnu?
You are right. As stupid as he is, you are that smart. Why is Vishnu easy to understand? He's got 4 arms. How is that easy to understand? He's holding, like in different hands, the Shank and the Gada and the Chakra and the Padma, and in different configurations. He has 100 different names, 16 major ones. How is that easy to understand? Because Vishnu is truly God. He's powerful. You are small. He's huge. So you know he's not like you, he's got 4 arms. And he's got equal parts justice and mercy. How does he show you, what elements of the 4 symbols I just mentioned show you justice? The wheel, the chakra. All right, that's one element that shows you justice. What else shows you justice?
The club.
The club, the gada. You guys are really failing me here. Now you're nodding your head, but you got to fail because you didn't answer the question. What elements show his mercy? You're killing me. Why are you saying it like you don't know? You're a pujari. Come on. You got to say it with confidence. You don't go like, Padma. You don't do that. That doesn't. I want to give you a wrong answer, even though you're right. All right, that's not your lotus and the conch. Yes, also Shank, both. So you got justice. You got mercy. He's clearly not like you. He's powerful. He's big. You're small. This is the classical conception of God in any religion in the world. The most difficult conception of Vaishnava Dharma to understand is Hitan. Krishna as a baby, even better, right? He's like doubling down. Krishna and then Krishna as a baby. How do you get the universe coming from a child with a mother, suckling from her breast, being protected, carrying his father's shoes on his head? Eating dirt, getting tied up to a grinding mortar, stealing butter. How does any of that make any sense? How's that God? Yes. Most difficult to understand, most intimate versus most powerful. These two different strands. Most difficult to understand and most easy to understand. Vishnu is most easy, Krishna is most difficult. And then right in between Krishna and Vishnu is who? Ram. Ram is right in between Krishna and Vishnu. Our particular sect, our Gaudiya sect, our Chaitanya sect of Vaishnav Dharma, we have a love-hate relationship with Ram. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was touring in South India, he would meet Ram Bhaktas and he would reinitiate them. He would give them Krishna mantra. He would preach to them to stop worshipping Ram and to worship Krishna. This happened many, many times in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Many times. Chaitanya would tour in South India. He would meet followers of Lakshmi Narayan, specifically the Sri Vaishnav school, and he would tell them, give up worshipping Narayan, worship Krishna. And he would meet Ram Bhaktas, also in South India. Ram Bhakti is very popular in South India. It's also popular in North India, but it's extremely popular in South India. And he would preach to them like anything. Give up worshipping Ram and worship Krishna. Give up your Ishtadev and accept my Ishtadev. Give up your family's deity. Give up your tradition and become a part of our, convert to our tradition. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by and large, was successful. He would convert so many throngs of people, and you could hear Krishna Kirtan everywhere he went. He changed the moods and the understanding. It was not difficult because they're the same school. They're both Vaishnava. It's not like converting a Shaiva or a Shakta. You're converting a Vaishnava to just a different conception of divinity within the same major school. It's a small conversion. But there were 3 times where there were failures to convert people to worshiping Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu failed twice. One with Murari Gupta, and then Rup Sanatan failed with Anupam, their brother, the father of Jiva Goswami. And then finally, we're left with tonight's story. Huge failure. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu massively failed to convert a Ram Bhakta. So he was in South India. I want to say he was in Madurai, but I'm just reciting from memory, so I got to double check. And he was in South, and he met one super Pukka Brahman. Now, it's a thing that Brahmins, as their dharma sometimes, will open restaurants. Or they'll take jobs as cooks. Because even today in pious Indian society, Brahmins are the cooks because Brahmins are clean. And therefore when they cook cleanly. So like if we do a yatra and we go someplace and we want to bring a cook with us, we'll hire some Brahmin to come and cook for us. It's very common. You do Tirtha Yatra, you'll hire a Brahmin cook to come with you. Or if you go on Tirtha Yatra to some place, then you will find some Brahmana there, and then they will cook for you while you're there. You'll live with them, next to them, they'll have a place for you to stay, and then they'll cook, and you'll eat what they cook, and that way you can make sure you're eating nice foodstuffs when you travel. This is amongst like kind of pure Brahmin type people. They're careful. Otherwise you travel with your own cooking equipment and you cook for yourself. Like when I travel in India and I go to the mountains in the Himalaya, I bring one kerosene stove and I just cook for myself. Because all the Garhwalis, they all eat meat. They're mountain people. It's their nature. They're all eating meat. You give them some goat, they will take it. And so I bring a stove with me, and I just cook for myself. Even though it's an austerity to travel and be cooking for yourself, especially up in the mountains. Shh. Who's talking?
I think
He's chanting. Chant a little quieter, please. Thank you. So, yeah. So, you'll hire some Brahmana to cook for you. So when Mahaprabhu went places, he would find some Brahmana, and then that Brahmana would cook. So he met a South Indian Brahmin. And he said, the Brahmin said, I would like to cook for you. Mahaprabhu said, okay, I'll take my bath, and then I'll come back, and then we can eat. So he came back after 1-2 hours, and nothing was cooked. And he said to the Brahmana, hey, what's going on? I'm a sannyasi. You asked me, and then now there's nothing cooked. And the Brahmin said to him, oh, I'm sorry. Ram and Lakshman are off gathering mulpal, fruits and roots. And when they bring them back, then Mother Sita, she will cook them. And only then can we eat. You follow? You don't follow. If you don't follow, I think you're not a devotee. This Brahmin was so absorbed in Ram Smaran that he was thinking he's in the pastime with Sita and Ram, and he is a sevak for Sita, and he's there as their servant, and his masters Ram and Lakshman are off gathering, and his mother Sita Devi will cook. Maybe he will help her chopping some vegetables. And he was lost in his meditation. He had gotten lost. You follow? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see this kind of devotion. And then that Brahmin woke up from his trance. And he apologized. He said, I'm sorry, I got lost. He said, but I've got this pain in my heart. I've got this pain in my heart. That I'm reading Ramayana every day, and it's saying how Ravan stole Sita. And when I think that Ravan touched Sita and carried her away, it breaks my heart, and I can't eat, I can't sleep. I practically want to die. I feel so badly. And Ram said, no. Ravan never touched Sita. Ravan never touched Sita. Sita never crossed the Lakshman Rekha. When she looked like she crossed, that was a Maya Sita that came out. The real Sita stayed inside. Her body is Satchit Ananda. It cannot be touched by Ravan. What Ravan carried away was a Chaya Sita, a Maya Sita, a shadow of Sita, a fake Sita, an illusion of Sita. Then in the Agni Pariksha, when Sita showed her purity, then that Maya Sita went in, and the real Sita, who had been kept behind the Lakshman Rekha, protected, she came out. But Ravan never touched Sita. You guys follow this? If you're good Hindus and you know the basic story of Ramayana, you follow it. And I'm a little late with class, so I don't have time to explain all the details. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pacified the Brahmin. He pacified him. And he did not try to convert him to Krishna Bhakti. He left him as he is. And when he continued his trip, traveling, he found one Shastra that told this story about the Maya Sita, and he had a copy made of that Shastra, and he sent it back to that Brahmin to give joy to his heart. That just see, I'm not just telling you this, it's in the Shastra. I believe it's in Garud Purana. Kurma Purana. Thank you for correcting me. And so he found one copy of the Kurma Purana. He found the Kurma Purana, saw the story, hired someone to make a copy. Also, Brahmins did this work, lexicographers, and then he made a copy and he sent back that copy to this Brahmin. Very difficult to do, but he did it to give joy to the Brahmin's heart, so he could feel secure that Ravan never touched Sita. That Brahmin, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not try to convert. Why? Because that Brahmin had developed an intimate, sweet relationship with so much rasa in it towards Ram. Because Ram is in between Vishnu and Krishna, and that relationship with Ram can become quite sweet. Very sweet. There's a lot of room for intimacy, personal service, Vishramba Seva, this kind of service devoid of any hegemony, this service devoid of any power disparity, very intimate familial service. And really, if you want to look at the vast different avatars that are worshipped by the Vaishnavas all over India for so many thousands of years, the real difference is varying shades of intimacy. How intimate you can relate to that deity. By the time you get to Krishna, there's full intimacy. You can embrace Krishna, you can kiss Krishna, you can dance with Krishna. There's nothing in between you and the divine. Even it gets subverted and you become the parent of Krishna, he becomes your child. With Vishnu, you are like an ant compared to a mountain. But it's a lovely mountain. But you're still always aware you're an ant. And with Ram, it's somewhere in between. Most people view Ram more or less like Vishnu. Those people we convert to a sweet relationship. But once in a while you meet someone with a very sweet relationship with Ram, and that relationship cannot be broken. Because when you go to that person and say, no, I have some rust to offer you, then they will not take it because they're attached to that deity Ram. They found their sweetness. They found their cup is full. They are wanting nothing. And when you explain to them how sweet Krishna is, they think, no, Ram is so sweet. Ram's in the forest, he's collecting fruits and vegetables at Pampa Sarovar, and everyone's sitting there, beautiful. And I'm also there, I'm also serving, and they have this mood. And so really when you look at Vaishnava Dharma and you want to understand all these different sects within the Vaishnava group, it's just different shades of intimacy with the deity. Different shades of intimacy. And by the time you get to Ram, it's quite sweet. It can be anyway. So this is our love-hate relationship with Ram. In general, we're converting people. Every once in a while we meet a Ram Bhakta who's just too pure and has too much love for Ram. And then we offer our respects, even find some Shastra for them, and feel happy that we've met our brethren, someone who's close to us. For this reason, Ram, Narasimha, Krishna are considered the Paravasta avatars, the primary manifestations of Vishnu, in the famous text, Laguna Beach. That's it. I want to give a short class because we're tight on time. Any discussion? Any questions? Any comments? Yes?
Maryland, the town of Maryland, and also ISKCON of New Jersey have full set of Ram.
Also ISKCON Mumbai has? Yeah? Yeah, we've established a few sets of Ram Murtis in ISKCON. Very unusual. No Gaudiya tradition. No one in the Gaudiya line is establishing deities of Ram. Prabhupada was unusual in this way. And so occasionally we do that. It's the exception rather than the rule. But in our hundreds of temples, we have a couple of temples that have established Ram deities. Someone asked me if we could establish a Ram deity down in Escondido. And I said, under no circumstances. I like hearing Ram Katha, but we're Gaudiyas, and so our primary deity is Radha Krishna, Gaura-Nitai, like that. More?
So in Mahamantra we have Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so that Ram, thank you. I was thinking, should I mention this or not? So that Ram comes from Ram, which means to enjoy. And so Ram means enjoyer or enjoyment. That Ram can either refer to Ramachandra, Bhagawan. It can refer to Balaram, who's also known as Ram. Or it can refer to Radha Raman Ram, or Krishna, who is associated with Radharani and is also called Ram. And so depending on your feeling towards Krishna, Ram, you will understand the meaning of the mantra in one of these three ways. And so it can be Balaram, it can be Ramachandra, or it can be Radha Raman Ram, the enjoyer of Radharani. And so for most of us who worship Radha and Krishna, most of our tikakars, most of our acharyas who write their tika on the mantra, what it means, over centuries they've been writing down, this is what this mantra means. Some of the commentaries are 500 years old. Generally they favor the idea that Ram means Krishna. And so, just like the Radha Raman deity in Vrindavan. So for the most part, we are favoring that interpretation. But certainly, it would be just fine if you understand Ram to be Ramachandra, depending on your adhikar and your heart's desire. Just like Hare can be Hari, or another name for Krishna, Vishnu, or it can be Hara, a name for Radharani. And so in this way, the mantra lends itself to several poetic understandings. For the most part, we favor Radharani and Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I didn't want that yet. So Hare Krishna, Krishna and Radha. I'm not asking you to do anything, just listen. Hare Krishna, Krishna and Radharani are together. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, they're separate. Hare Ram, they come back together again. Ram Ram, Hare Hare, they're separate again. This is our general feeling towards that mantra. We're seeing Radha and Krishna coming together for the Ras Leela. Part of that Ras Leela is they separate. Their feelings increase in that separation. That vipralamba, that separation, makes the sambhog, or the union, more sweet. And so we normally see this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as referring to the Nitya Leela of Radha and Krishna, where they're always coming together and uniting, and then separating, and then uniting and separating. However, you could also just see it as names of Krishna. Ram, Krishna, Hari, strung together beautifully. That could also be a way of interpreting it. And so there are several variations depending on what you're into. It's a very good question. Thank you. And so this idea that it's Krishna and Radharani together, this idea is our tradition's idea, goes back about 500 years. A number of our acharyas have commentated like this. More? One more? Yes.
I was thinking of a story where there's a woman who's offering some small fruits to Rama, but she would try them first to make sure they're sweet. What's that? I think someone named, but yeah, I'm not sure, but it's a kind of informal relationship that we don't find with Narayana.
Yes. That's what I was trying to teach. Yes. That's just essentially a small version of what I spent the whole class trying to teach.
No, just before coming, I come from Tamil Nadu.
I can tell just by looking at you.
Sure. Yeah. So, Kulaseka.
You also look super pious.
Yeah.
You look like a pious man from South.
I'm not so sure about that. But
I mean, you're in a mandir. I'm hoping you're pious.
I try to be.
I think you are. Please.
Thank you. I have, like since childhood I've read Alvar's Pasurams, the 12 Alvars,
Yes.
considered the...
I know who the Alvars are.
Right.
Please.
So Kulasekara Alvar.
I know Kulashekar Alvar.
Who wrote Mukundamala.
I know Mukundamala Stotram. I've read it many times.
Also wrote, this, just before I was coming, I read where he is assuming himself as the mother of Rama. And he is singing the songs to make him sleep.
Maternal affection for Ram. So sweet. Yes, so sweet. When you look at the Sri Vaishnava tradition nowadays, you find that this sweetness is not so much the way they teach worship. They teach a very formal ritual worship. However, when you look at the writings of the Alvars, you find that the birth of bhakti is there with the Alvars. Very sweet, intimate, almost romantic love. You go back to the Alvars and you see this kind of devotion, so much so that our tradition, the Gaudiya tradition, borrowed so much Siddhanta and also Ras from the Sri Vaishnava tradition. So I was unaware of this about Maharaj Kulashekar, but I'm not at all surprised. And I've read many things by the Alvars that have this sweetness, this real intense bhakti that is normally found in the worship of Krishna and is largely absent nowadays in South India. But when you go back, you see they were speaking like this, and no one knows what to do with it. Like I will tell you this. Like there was one person named Thomas Aquinas. He lived in the 11th century. He was a Catholic theologian. He said you can kiss the feet of God, you can kiss the hand of God, or you can kiss the lips of God. Like a servant, or like the deity, or like the king, you kiss the ring, or like a lover. So you find these little statements in religions, and no one knows what to do with them. They just keep them on the shelf. But our tradition values these statements like anything. And so I feel super happy to hear this from the Alvar Patra, that you read this about Maharaj Kulashekar. It makes me feel very happy. I noted many times I've heard stories from the Alvars, dozens of them over the decades, and they have this sweet quality in their life.
It's not even like almost romantic. Some of them are very romantic.
Yes.
Andal especially, and Namalvar is considered by
I know Nam Alvar.
as Krishna Tattva, meaning the devotion itself took the form as a person, Krishna's devotion especially. Because most of his songs are on Krishna. He's considered
Yes, Nam Alvar is very famous. Very famous. Yeah, but you don't find that so popular now. So we want to help rehabilitate the South Indian tradition. And in many ways, I can say the Bhagavad Mahatmya, it says Bhakti was born in the South. Then she came north.
There's actually some parallel also. Namalvar heard how Krishna was tied by his mom using the rope. As soon as he heard it, he fainted for like 6 months. He couldn't wake up. And every time he wakes up, he hears him, he'll faint. But
They should stop telling him, making him faint all the time. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's do a little kirtan. Thank you very much.